Bắt đầu.
Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome back to our Theories of Learning course. My very first words would be my huge thank you to all of you, especially groups 6 and 7 for your project work. And I hope all the class could have a general idea, even a good idea of this theory. In today's lesson, I'm going to cover the following contents. Okay, my lesson will start with the definition of constructivism, its assumption and emphasis. Then I'm going to present information about the constructions of knowledge or how knowledge is constructed. Piaget's theories of cognitive development, Vygotsky's social constructivism, these are, as you may know, influential theories of learning. At the end of our lesson, we are going to focus on the implications for teachers and applications that other researchers and educators are adopting from constructivist perspectives. Now let's start. Constructivism is actually an epistemology or philosophical explanation about the nature of learning. In their view, there doesn't exist truth that are available to be tested and to be verified. Instead, knowledge should be constructed, should be informed inside the learner's mind and with in interactions with the context. The context can be the social cultural context. Accordingly, learning is considered a constructive process, and knowledge is not to be imposed from outside people, but rather formed inside. Constructivism is based on the following assumption, that is, individuals are actively involved right from birth in constructing personal meaning or their own personal understanding from their experience. All individuals make their own senses of the world in a unique way that is different from the sense others get. So there does not exist the same version of truth or knowledge constructed. Constructivism emphasizes on the following point. It highlights the learner's sense of their learning experiences and the world that they live in. Second, it highlights the learner's mental processes. Examples of mental processes can be the learner's remembering, paying attention, solving a problem, thinking critically. Last point that I want to mention is emphasis is the learner's active role in co-constructing their understandings. So the important words here is it is the learner becomes the central focus of this learning theory. And as its name suggests, constructivism, so the verb here is construct. Construct rather than accumulate. So, in view of the learning process, constructivists claims that learning should be a process of construction rather than accumulations of facts or development of skills. The last issues that is of great concern from constructivist perspective is how individuals construct their own personal understanding of their worlds. The question, how is knowledge constructed? Actually, there is no single theory of constructivism. There are different versions of constructivism instead. And different versions of constructivism we can think of individual constructivism, social constructivism, radical constructivism. And these different approaches to constructivism, they have their attention over this issue, the issues of how knowledge is constructed. Generally, there are three main popular explanations to the question. The first approach to address this question is to adopt the external direction. That is, knowledge can be constructed by building mental representations of the outside world. The mental representations can be propositional network concepts, cause and effect patterns, and condition, action, production rules. Learning is viewed to be under influence by direct teaching, feedback, and explanation. Information processing views is consistent with this way of explanation. Another explanation about the construction of knowledge is to adopt the internal direction. In this way of explaining knowledge construction, knowledge is constructed by abstracting or transforming, organizing, and previous knowledge. Knowledge is not considered a mirror of the external world, but it grows with cognitive activity, more internally consistent, organized with development. And exploration and discovery they are considered more important than teaching. And Piaget's theory can be a good example of this way of explaining knowledge construction. The last approach to address the question how is knowledge constructed that I would like to introduce is the one that combines both external and internal directions. And Vygotsky's social constructivism exemplifies this approach. Accordingly, knowledge construction is based on social interactions and experience through the learner's appropriation and use of control tools such as language. So, in this way of explaining knowledge construction, there can be many factors. The contextual factors, the psychological factors from learners can take their role. Some influences can be mentioned here are culture, including a group of people's language, beliefs, teaching, and the learners, the individual learners' prior knowledge, beliefs, and thinking. About constructivism's versions, as I have mentioned before, there are many versions of constructivism. However, the two most influential ones are Piaget's theories and Vygotsky's. Let me start with Piaget's theory first. As you probably know, theory of Piaget is a dominant figure in cognitive development psychology. He underscores the constructive nature of learning process. In his view, the process of learning deserves more of our attention than what is learned. His theory is based on the assumption that people try to make sense of the world and actively create knowledge through direct experience with objects, people, and ideas. Piaget is interested in the ways in which people develop their understanding as they mature from infants to adults. He made his contribution by highlighting the different stages that children pass through in their thinking and learning. As you can see here, in his view, there are 4 stages of cognitive development, namely sensory motor stage, pre-occupational operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. At each stage of cognitive development, the learners can achieve their certain level of cognitive development. For example, when in the first stage, the babies can make sense of the world with their senses, and they can have their activities towards the goal they want to achieve. One important point that I want you to pay attention to is that cognitive development is viewed as a process of maturation. So it involves the interactions between genetics and experience. Every individual, regardless of gender, ages, occupations, get involved in the following intellectual processes as a response to information that we perceived or received. They are two great functions. The first one is organization, and the other one is adaptation. Organization is ongoing process of arranging information and experience into mental systems of categories. And adaptation is ongoing process of adjusting one's schema to the environment. To help you understand more about the process of adaptation, I introduce you some basic ideas of schema. This is, we can say that it is essential, absolutely important concept to explain how people act on information that they receive. Schema refers to the potential to act in a certain way. It is the basic building block of thinking, or organized system of actions or thought that allow us to mentally represent or think about the objects and events in our world. Some example schemas can be schemas of sucking, looking, grasping among babies, classifying objects for older children, driving a car, strategies and plans for solving a problem for older children. Adaptation is again a two-form process. It consists of the two sub-processes. They are assimilation and accommodation. So I mean for learners to adjust their schemas to the environment, to the new environment, that learners is expected to be good at the assimilating and accommodating their schemas. Assimilation is the incorporation or the taking in of new information into their existing knowledge or their schema. Accommodation refers to the modification of what they already know to accommodate the new input. So I have an activity for you to do let's check your understanding of these two sub-processes of adaptation. Please indicate the types assimilation and accommodation in this following example. The example here, I wonder whether you could read the example clearly enough. Okay, so how about I read it for you? I have a story to share here. That is, a young child has learned the word car to identify the family's car. The child might call all vehicles that move on the roads cars. So they can call motorcycles, even motorbikes. They can call motorbikes, trucks. They call them cars too. But the child soon learned that motorcycles and trucks are not cars. And they try to find another category to classify such vehicles as motorcycle and trucks. So please do this activity at home. It is ideally, it's desirable that the learners can carry on the two processes of assimilation and accommodation at the same time, so that they can they can go ahead with their appropriate behaviors. However, in real life, things may not go that way. The learners may be stuck in a state of cognitive disequilibrium, the state in which the new and old ideas, they do not match or cannot be reconciled. So, it's often the case that the learners, when they meet something new, when they encounter something new, and they recall what they have already known about a similar object, they fail to fit the new object, the new information input into their existing schema. And so they may get confused or in the stage of cognitive disequilibrium. There is the need for addressing this disequilibrium for one's learning, for the change in behavior, in perceiving things. Constructivist perspective that I would like to present is the Vygotsky's social constructivism. Of the social constructivism, again, social constructivism can be persons, but in this lesson I just focus on the one by Vygotsky. Vygotsky developed his ideas of social constructivism in the 1920s and 1930s. However, his constructivist ideas would only be appreciated until the 1960s. Vygotsky's social constructivism provides helpful insight into the development of people's cognitive ability and higher order thinking skills. By higher order thinking skills, I mean the skills that the learners need to control their process of learning, to control the concrete specific strategies to accomplish a task. Examples of higher order thinking skills can be reasoning, doing reflection, thinking critically, solving a problem. Let us have a close look at Vygotsky's view of how our child's cultural development grow. How about I give you 2 minutes to have a look at this quote. Try to make sense of this quote. Okay, so at home you can pause my video clip and try to make sense of Vygotsky's view in this quote. And here's my sharing of some inherent ideas in this quote. The quote implies that all learning is a contextualized social process. All knowledge, higher mental processes, need to be co-constructed first, then internalized by the child. By co-constructed process, Vygotsky means it is a social process in which people interact and negotiate, often by verbal communication, to create an understanding or to solve a problem. And the final product is shaped by all participants. Let us study this example of co-construction for cognitive development. The situation here is that a 6-year-old has lost her toy, and she asked her father for help. The father asked her whether she last saw the toy. The child said, "I can't remember." And then the father asked a series of questions, like, did you have it in your room? Outside? Next door? She says, no. And when he say, in the car? She says, I think so, and goes to retrieve the toy. So my question here is, please answer my question. After having studied that situation, who remembered where the toy was? What was co-constructed? Could she find lost things next time? Obviously, you may agree with me that neither the father nor the daughter, but two of them together could find the toy. And what was co-constructed here? That is the process of remembering and solving the problem. The problem here is finding a lost toy. Both the father and the daughter, they joined their conversation. They did their question and answer, and during that conversation, the daughter also carry out some other mental processes, such as trying to remember, trying to recall, trying to make connections between the places that her father mentioned and the image of the toy. So, the last question here, could she find lost things next time? What would be your answer? Okay, so one answer may be that it is very likely that the girl could find her lost toy or her lost things next time. Do you know why? The reason here is that the girls, during her interaction, her social negotiation with her father, she internalized the strategies to solve the problem of losing things and how to fight back again. Yes, let us continue with further significant features of social constructivism. Social constructivism also view that the relationship between the individual and context is not unidirectional. What does it mean? By not unidirectional, Vygotsky means that there exists an interaction between the social context and the individual time. There is actually interdependent, close relationship between this, in the sense that the social world has an important impact on the development of that individual, and in turn, the individuals, through participation, constantly influencing the social context. Let me give you an example. Culture, maybe you see in mountain areas, it's common that ethnic group people, the older ethnic people, they teach formally or informally that children how the what and the how to learn. So they may make the choice to learn how to weave their costumes rather than doing computational skills. Do you know why? Because in the cultures, people tend to do the weaving, tend to do the embroidering costumes. So, born in that ethnic group, the children tend to make their choice of the what and the how to learn from that culture. And what about the sense that the individual, through participation, is constantly influencing the social context? By joining the social cultural activities, the learners, they can negotiate, they can interact with their adults, their teachers, their parents, their community, influential figures in that community, and they together co-construct new knowledge and come up with new practices that contribute to their culture again. Another feature of Vygotsky's theory is the relationship between cultural tools and cognitive developments. The cultural tools can be the physical or symbolic tools. Physical tools can be hammer, diggers, axes, calculator, computers, as you may know. And symbolic tools, examples of symbolic tools can be number of diagrams, mind map, plans, mnemonic device, maps, mathematical formulae, vocabulary notebook. Of symbolic tools, the language, especially indigenous private and silent speech, are considered the most powerful tool that can mediate all higher order mental processes. Let us have a look at these two situations. The first one, let us see the importance of the word no. So no is just one word, but it can be powerful. In the first situation, the parents say no when the child reaches towards a counter flame, and the child can listen to the parents not to touch the counter flame. He internalized the meaning. He can make sense of the meaning of the word no from the word no and the parents' tone, and the child can internalize that use of the word no, and then in turn he used the word no to say to his friend when that friend wants to take away his toy. In another situation, when the child is tempted to touch the counter flame because she has internalized the meaning of the word no in previous experiences, so this time she can say quietly to her, say no quietly when so she didn't touch the counter flame. In the second situation, while doing puzzles, a child aged 4 to 5 says, "No, it won't fit. Try it here, turn. Maybe this one." Okay, so please study these two situations and try to make sense of the role of language or private speech in these two situations. Okay, to share with you what I know about the role of language of private speech in this situation, you can see, you can realize that the learners hear the word no and the private speech in the second situation do help the learners to achieve their goals towards, they can improve their ability to draw attention, to remember, to feel encouraged or disencouraged, to improve her self-regulation, like to plan, to monitor her behavior, plan, monitor, and even evaluate her behavior so that she can have appropriate behaviors in the next time. One very important contributions of Vygotsky is definitely his construct of the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development refers to the distance between the actual developmental level as determined by independent problem solving and the level of potential development as determined through problem solving under adult guidance or in collaborations with more capable peers. So, I would like to highlight the two basic concepts in this definition. What does the actual developmental level refer to? It refers to the learner's current level, the level of development at which the learners can do things on him or herself, on by him or herself. And the level of potential development refers to what a child is potentially able to do with others people's help, with a capable adults or capable beings' help. This construct is considered to leave one of the great impact. It can be considered. Some researchers view that this construct is one of the most powerful, the most useful construct to help us to achieve our educational objectives. What is special about this construct? It highlights learner development in the process of maturation. This is a big contribution that Vygotsky's theory makes. Previous researchers' theories of learning, they just be aware of the current level of learners. They do not anticipate that learners can potentially have the development that is still in the process of maturation. The potential that cannot be observed, cannot be felt, cannot be dismissed, have a sense of at present. This construct also highlights the unity and interdependence between learning and development. So, when you read the definition of the zone of proximal development carefully, you may realize that this construct do highlight the very close relationship between learning and development, in which learning play a very important role on learning. Learning can precede one's development. We should know that previously, this knowledge is never had never been aware of. And this also shows one big difference between Piaget and Vygotsky's theories. In Piaget's view, development should necessarily precede learning. But Vygotsky's idea regarding this is really revolutionary. He claims that learning can precede one's development. Next, this construct demonstrates the interdependent relationship between culture and cognition. Normally, we find theories tend to just place their emphasis on either context or culture or the learner's psychological factors. But this construct is really a place where culture and cognition meet each other. The last merit of this construct is that this construct do provide prompts about the what and the how of scaffolding our learners. And this is our really things that educational and researchers is interested in. Educators and researchers may, in education field may be, they may feel that they can be confident with what they have been doing for their learners because of the promising results of scaffolding, of doing something, of being great help to our learners. So far, I have introduced to you the two influential learning theories, that is constructivist by Piaget and Vygotsky. And here is a table of comparison between these two constructivist approaches. As you can see from this table, there are basically differences among these two theories, apart from some similarities regarding the teaching implications. It should be noted that Sanchok, the author Sanchok, he made this table not to make clear-cut distinction between these two theories. In fact, there can be always clear-cut distinction between these theories, but the author Sanchok wants us to draw more our attention to how these two theories, they help us to understand the learning processes. So instead of trying to finding the differences between these two theories, it's advisable that you consider how these two theories help you to understand more about the learning processes of your learners, whether they have any efficacy or relevance to your own teaching situation, and then you can make your informed decisions on the what and how to facilitate our learners. And in the last parts of our lesson, we are going to focus on the implications for teachers and some common applications of constructivist perspective. First, because we consider the implications for teachers in the light of the constructivist approaches by Piaget, Vygotsky. Piaget first, so I'll start with the implications for teachers in the light of Piaget's theory. As the first implication here is for teacher to provide support for your learners to explore the world and construct their personal understandings from their experiences. The second, teachers are advised to be well informed of the learner's schemata, levels of cognitive development to facilitate their development. For example, as I mentioned earlier, learners, they act on information they receive based on with the involvement of such processes as their own schemata, their organization of information, their adaptation of their existing schemas to the new environment. So, given the fact that cognitive structures varies from this learners to another learner. So, for some learners, what you introduce, most specifically, the language item, the new language item you introduce to your learners may be new to one learners, but it may be too hard to make sense of for another learners. So the reason here may be related to the differences in different learners' schemas. Therefore, learners or teachers are advised to prepare diverse learning materials to satisfy different learners' different schemas. Another specific advice regarding our good knowledge of the learner's level of cognitive development. As you know, for children aged from 2 to 7, they just this time they start to be able to use symbolic language, symbolic tools to express their ideas, but they cannot do their abstract reasoning. So imagine that if we teach this group of young learners how to, if you introduce to them a new structure, a new grammar structure, a verb tense with your procedures of introducing the grammar rules of using a certain verb tense, and you ask them to reason abstractly how the rules of using such verb tense is impossible for this group of young learners. So we should not expect our young learners aged from 2 to 7 so that for this group, there's just maybe they have their level of pre-operational stage, but what you want them to do is the one that they can only do that when they come to the last stage of cognitive development, that is formal operational, for group of children aged 14 to 15. So it will be impossible, it will be hard for the group of young learners to do what only the much older children can do. However, it should be noted that cognitive conflict or cognitive equilibrium can be a starting point for learners to establish a new match between their existing schemata and the new schemas. So, in other words, the learners that are in state of knowing something that they cannot assimilate the new one, and they need to adjust their current schema to assimilate, to accommodate the new information. So when they can establish this state, when they can address the cognitive disequilibrium, there could be changes in their behavior and in their perceptions. In other words, there can be evidence of learning here. So, in this case, it is advisable for teachers to design learning tasks to provide educational experiences that are slightly but appropriately challenging to the learners, so that they can stretch their potential. Now comes to some more implications for teachers in the light of Vygotsky's theory. As you may remember, I mentioned that in Vygotsky's view, learning doesn't occur in vacuum, but it does occur in a certain socio-cultural context. And the socio-cultural context, the culture that the learners live in, may have influence on the what and how to learn something. So we should, as teachers, be aware of this contextual influences on learning processes. We should understand the learner's context and background knowledge and take that as starting point to decide the what and how to scaffold your learners for their further development. Second, we are advised to understand that knowledge is to be constructed or co-constructed through social negotiation and shared responsibility among learners as a part of learning. By social negotiation, I have said that social negotiation is a part of one's learning process. By social negotiation, it refers to aspects of learning process that relies on collaboration with others and respect for different perspectives. So the key ideas here are to collaborate and respect. So for learning to occur, for knowledge to be constructed or co-constructed, good communications among learners is necessary. The learners had better listen, talk to each other, discuss, negotiate their meaning in the spirit of respecting each other, rather than just defending your own positions and ignoring other learners' viewpoints, it would be not effective, not efficient to be care about whether you will win your arguments or not. So social negotiation, I would like to emphasize that it is a very necessary part of one's learning process, and we as teachers had better provide a learning environment that allow for social negotiation among learners. And the next implication is that teachers should assist learners to maximize their learning in the zone of proximal development so that they can reach their development level that is still in maturation. Next is to provide a supportive environment of interaction between teachers and learners and among learners. It's important because social negotiation, as I said, is a necessary part of learning process. A supportive environment also needs to be complex, challenging learning environment with authentic tasks. By authentic tasks, I mean the tasks that the teachers design should help the learners to get better prepared to function well in their real life. So when we design our learning tasks for our learners, please keep in mind that our tasks should be of educated value. It should help our learners to connect what they learn in class at school with what they may use or apply in real life. So I think a good starting point for teacher is to ask, what is the purpose of teaching a certain language item or certain language skills? What you need to ask, maybe what do you want to help your learners to do in their real life communication in the target language? The supportive environment also needs to provide multiple representations of content. So, in other words, teachers are advised to encourage their learners to demonstrate, to show what they have constructed or co-constructed in any way in however that they like. One important aspect of a supportive environment is the sense of being valued, supported among learners. Now, let us move on to the very last part of my lesson. Here, I'm going to, because within the limited scope the limited time, class time, so I just introduce you a list of applications that educators and researchers are increasingly interested in, and one in doing their research or in applying this in their own classroom. Let us have a look at the list. Can you add something to the list? Can you add some applications that you know to the list here? Have you ever employed this teaching and learning methods for your learners? Within this lesson scope, I just would like to focus on the last two applications of constructivist perspectives. They are dynamic assessment and scaffolding. By scaffolding, it is a technique that involves changing the level of support for learning. A teacher or more advanced peers adjust the amount of guidance to fit the student performance. So, what I would like you to pay more attention is the change, the dynamic state of sport. We are advised to be flexible and sensible to the level and the amount of support we provide for our learners. Generally, we are advised to provide our help for our learners at the right time with the right amount of help, and we can consider whether the learners need more help or whether the learners can demonstrate their understanding or their ability to solve a problem independently or interdependent by the learners themselves. By doing so, we can decide the amount of scaffolding that we need to provide, or even we can step back and empower the learners to solve a problem by themselves. The other application that I would like to highlight here is dynamic assessment. I wonder whether you have experience in conducting this kind of dynamic assessment. Have you? Dynamic assessment is one application of the zone of proximal development. Dynamic assessment can be conducted to explore the zone of proximal development. And then we can be more informed of how to help our learners to go across the zone of proximal development. And here's a model introduced by the two researchers here in 1998. I have numbered the steps, the what to do and the how to do when we conduct dynamic assessment here. But please remember that I didn't mean that we have to follow these steps in a linear order. Actually, steps 2 to 6, we can be flexible. It depends on our understanding of our learners. And now, let us do the activity of think, pair or group, and then share. I would like to introduce to you listening instructions stages recommended by Van der Graaf 2004. Please have a look at the different stages of delivering listening instructions with this model. Okay, so how about I give you 1 to 2 minutes to look at each screen here. Okay, so at home you can pause my video clip for reading as long as you wish. Okay, so I have shown you the different stages of delivering listening instructions. And now I would like to invite you to think how are the following listening instruction stages applying constructivism? Can you identify the evidence of applying constructivism in this listening instruction model? If you wish, because as one recurring message of constructivism is to empower the learners, to support them to explore and discover knowledge from their own experience. So I'm going to let you make sense of these stages first and think. What evidence can you find that this listening instruction modules is applying constructivism? Okay. Alternatively, I have some prompts for you. Please treat them as my scaffold, to help you to develop across your zone of proximal development, to help you to gain better insight into the implied applications of constructivism in this lesson. Here are some questions as prompts. So please, at home, please read these prompts if you like, and then answer the question, how are the following listening instructions applying constructivism? Okay, so our lessons has come to an end, and I have some food for your thought at home, and I do welcome all of your thoughts, reactions, stories, or sharing any experience regarding these two activities. The first activity is, please consider the adequacy and relevance of constructivism to your own teaching situation. So, in other words, please think critically and reflectively about the adequacy, about the relevance of constructivism, and consider whether they can be of some help to your teaching situation. What can you do for your learners so to maximize their learning in the zone of proximal development? And then please design and justify your listening lesson for your own learners. So please, I would love to see and to hear any of your sharing regarding your listening lessons. The second activity here is please leave your study, think, and share your thoughts, experiences related to one of the following opinions. If you like, you can write your responses to both of these two opinions. That one, there is no focus for learning, no clear goal in constructivist classroom. Do you think so? Please justify your opinion. And the same for the second opinion. Since teachers are not primarily engaged in delivering instructions like delivering their lectures, providing their explanations, their roles is less important than in a traditional classroom. What is your ideas? What is your position? Okay, so please think, discuss, create, and share with me in the whole class. I look forward to listening to any of your thoughts, any of your stories or experiences regarding these two activities and regarding the constructivist views that I have presented to you. So, thank you for your listening, and goodbye for now.